Hey folks, this is Ronnie Turner with your weekly prophecy update. Okay, starting out this week, we're going to be looking at a news clip from the NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams talking about the Exodus because of the persecution that the Jews are facing in parts of Europe. I thought it's interesting how our Bible talks about how the Jews are going to be forced in the end times to return to their homeland, not just as a nation, but eventually all Jews would be forced to return to Israel. So we're going to start out with this news clip and then follow that up with the Jewish Voice. Jonathan Bernice has a guest, Ron Rhodes, who's a Bible scholar, talking about what's prophesied in the Bible as far as the Jewish people returning back to their homeland. It was pretty neat how the two stories came out the same week and just happened to pretty much be saying the same thing, but from the secular side and then from the biblical side as a comparison to see how, in fact, prophecy is coming true today. So this is a really good example of that. So take a look at these two clips.
Involving Islamic extremism are only reinforcing what many Jews have come to question about France right now, whether the country is a safe place for them to live and work. The sentiment perhaps summed up best by a pillar of the Jewish community in France who remarked on this broadcast last night that in World War II, the optimists went to Auschwitz and the pessimists went to New York. Our report on that tonight from NBC's Bill Neely.
Murdered in Paris, buried in Israel, the 4 Jews taken hostage and shot in a kosher supermarket. The son of one said his French father had always wanted to live in Israel. He is here now, he said. In Paris, where the men were murdered, Jews debate their future and their security.
France has the largest Jewish population in Europe, 500,000. It also has the largest Muslim population, 5 million. Many Jews feel under threat. Some feel radical Islamists want to wipe them out.
I want to live French.
You don't feel safe?
I don't feel safe.
Jacqueline Cohen says it's a war here.
We feel in a war here.
When
you go in the street and you see all the police.
They have good reason to worry. A Jewish school was the target of a Muslim extremist 3 years ago, an attack that killed 7 people. Another French Muslim murdered 4 people at a Jewish museum in Brussels last year, a year when Jews were attacked more in France than anywhere else in Europe. The year Israel took in more Jews from France than from any other country.
In Paris, with this feeling, they have to be very careful not to draw attention to themselves as the Jews.
But not every Jew here is afraid.
You feel safe here? I do. I do. And I'm a New Yorker, so I know what safety in a city is all about.
Today, French troops and police patrolled synagogues and Jewish schools, trying to reassure frightened children and a traumatized people for whom France now feels less safe, a little less like home. Bill Neely, NBC News, Paris.
Let's focus on events in Israel. What do you see converging with end-time prophecy in connection with Israel and Jerusalem?
Well, of course, 1948 was a big year, wasn't it? Israel became a nation again. And you know, the scriptures tell us that Israel would become a nation again after a long and worldwide dispersion. A long and worldwide dispersion. It's never happened before. Okay, it's true that in the past, Israel went into captivity with Assyria and Babylon, but never before has Israel been in a long and worldwide dispersion all over the world. And so the scriptures are very clear.
And retain their identity.
Retain their identity.
That's miraculous.
That's right. And in Ezekiel 36 and 37, it talks very clearly about how Israel would become a nation again. Now, even in the 1920s and the 1930s, there were skeptics saying, you Christians are nuts for writing about this. But in 1948, Israel became a nation again. But Ezekiel 36 and 37 gets even more specific. And the thing about that text is it talks about how after Israel becomes a nation again, Jews will stream back to Israel from every nation in the world. That's never happened before. But it's been happening year by year ever since 1948. Now, that we're witnessing a fulfillment right before our eyes. Well, the fact is that end times prophecy was given to people under persecution. Remember the book of Revelation? John wrote that book to Christians who were suffering tremendously. And so he wrote that book to give them a comfort. Now, a lot of people think of prophecy as doomsday. There is a doomsday element, but there's a lot about prophecy that is very exciting. Did you know that the word throne occurs 40 times in the book of Revelation? Let me tell you something. God is in control of human history, and he is guiding human history toward its culmination in the coming of Jesus Christ.
There's the 2 points of view, the Israelites having to leave from other countries in the world, from a worldwide dispersion that took place nearly 2,000 years ago. And now, just like the Bible has foretold, the Israelites are having to leave other countries and return completely back to their homeland there in Israel. So I thought that was pretty neat. So the next clip we've got is Irvin Baxter from his show End of the Age, and he's given his research summary on his findings into the rebirth of the Roman Empire, which we learn about several places in the Bible where the revived Roman Empire will be the empire that exists during the end times. And Irvin's opinion here from his findings that he's got is pretty convincing that in fact the European Union is the revived Roman Empire, and all the pieces are in place down to the currency that kind of backs that up. So I thought this was a really good summary of what's expected as far as the revival of the Roman Empire, and then how that applies to what we're seeing today and in the recent few years. So go ahead and check this out.
That the Holy Roman Empire is now reborn. Now we want to explain. Here's what happened concerning the rebirth of the Holy Roman Empire. After World War II, the empires of Europe lay in ashes because of the plunder of Nazi Germany and of World War II. Great Britain, Germany, France, Italy, all the big powers of Europe were reduced to rubble. Now, these were the old traditional powers that ran the world, however. They didn't want to be left outside of the power equation of the world to come. There were two emerging nuclear superpowers, the Soviet Union and the United States of America. Winston Churchill foresaw that there had to be a radical realignment, or else Europe would become irrelevant. He actually proposed in a speech shortly after World War II was over that there would be established a United States of Europe. He said in this day of the nuclear superpower, it takes 200 million population in order to have the population base and the economic resources to play ball in the day of the nuclear superpower. He said we either forget our differences and unify as one in Europe, creating a United States of Europe. He actually used that term, or else all of the power will move to the Soviet Union and the United States of America. Well, the old proud states of Europe were used to playing a central role in world affairs, and they did not want to be shunted to the side of history. Consequently, they made a decision. In 1957, there was a treaty signed called the Treaty of Rome. They created, with the signing of the Treaty of Rome, what's called the common market. The first goal was economic union, but that was not the ultimate goal. The leaders knew that economic union had to come first, but political union was sure to follow, because once you join entities together economically, they have to pass laws to control and regulate their interaction, and ultimately you would build a body of laws that would become a political union as well as an economic union. So this was all set in motion by 6 nations. They signed the Treaty of Rome in 1957. Many others of the nations of Europe doubted that it would work, so they sat on the sidelines. However, it worked better than most people thought it could. Quickly, other people lined up to join this common market. They started with 6, then there became 9, then there was 10, then there was 12, then there was 15. By 1992, all of the economic barriers were down, so that you could raise crops in Germany and sell them in France, just like you could raise crops in Indiana and sell them in Illinois. All tariffs, all economic barriers were gone by 1992. And some people said, success. But the real leaders said, no, that's only phase one. Immediately, they called another meeting at Maastricht, Holland, and they formed a new treaty called the Maastricht Treaty. The goal of this treaty was to go from economic union to political union. Well, by 1999, they had their common money, the euro. All of you are familiar with the euro. By then, the European Union, by 2004, the European Union expanded to 25 member states. We're talking about 25 nations have now merged their economies, plus many of them had gotten rid of their money and adopted the common money of Europe, the euro. And by 2007, there were 27 members in what became known as the European Union. It wasn't the common market anymore because that phase was over. They now took upon themselves the name the European Union. And by 2007, they were the world's #1 economic power. They had 500 million population with the greatest economic might on the face of the planet. Now, that was where they were at that point. But the mission was not yet completed. We want to pause right now to ask this question, because I'm painting a scenario here that I'm asking you to believe that the European Union was really the prophesied rebirth of the Holy Roman Empire, of the prophesied Holy Roman Empire, out of which the Antichrist, the false prophet, will soon emerge. Now, is that really true, or am I simply reading something into this that's not there? Well, they decided they would start printing money. Their first money was printed in 1987, a coin called the ECU, the European Currency Unit. And when they decided to print their first money as the European Union, they were looking for someone's picture that would really convey the meaning of what was going on. I wonder, can you guess whose picture they chose to symbolize what was really taking place? Well, here's a copy of the coin. You can see it for yourself. They put the picture of Charlemagne. Remember, he was the first emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. Pope Leo III placed the crown on his head on Christmas Day, December 25, 800 AD. Now they decide to put his picture on their first coin. Was it because they understood that they were actually presiding over the rebirth of the Holy Roman Empire? You better believe. Now, that's not the only proof we have, because they decided about this time that they would award a prize annually for the statesperson in the world that had done the most that year to promote European unification, the realization of their United States of Europe dream. They were looking for a name for this prize for European unification, and can you guess what they decided the prize should be called? Well, here it is. It's the Charlemagne Prize. It's given every year. Right now, you can see a picture of President Clinton. He received the Charlemagne Prize in the year 2000. Why? Because there was a problem with Yugoslavia. Europe had to have Yugoslavia as part of its United States of Europe, as part of its European Union. But Slobodan Milosevic didn't want to lose sovereignty, and he resisted being melted into the European Union. So he had to be removed. Well, President Clinton led the charge. He used the forces of NATO, and he took Slobodan Milosevic out of power. He ended up on trial before the World Court in The Hague, and today, you guessed it, Yugoslavia is now part of the European Union, and President Clinton was given the prize for that. Actually, there were some interesting things said at the coronation of Clinton for that year's Charlemagne Prize. By the way, he went to Aachen, Germany, where the prize is awarded, and that's the home of Charlemagne. Still standing in Aachen is the cathedral he built in 800 AD, and you actually see President Clinton there receiving the prize. And listen to some of the things that Clinton said in his acceptance speech. The job of building a united Europe is certainly not finished. And it is important not to take all this self-congratulation too far, Clinton said, in becoming only the third American to receive the prestigious International Charlemagne Prize for promoting European unity. So Clinton understood fully what this prize was about. He understood what he was doing when he led the charge against Slobodan Milosevic, and he understood he got the prize for bringing Yugoslavia into the United States of Europe. Well, that's not all. Not only do we have the picture of Charlemagne on the first coin, not only do we have the Charlemagne Prize, but the most influential publication in Europe is a periodical called The Economist. Some people refer to it as the periodical of kings and presidents. It's by far the most influential periodical in Europe. It's owned by Lord Rothschild. It comes out weekly. And The Economist magazine has now devoted, over the past many years since the common market thrust was begun, they have devoted one page each week, each issue, to European unification, to the latest developments that week toward European unification. Now, can you possibly guess what they call this special page every week? Are you catching on yet? Here it is. They call it the Charlemagne page. Okay, do these people know what they're doing? Do they not? Oh, by the way, other nations are still lining up to join because the European Union is becoming more and more powerful, not only as an economic entity, but as a political union in the world. And many people still are making application to become a part of the European Union. But when they want to present their application, there is a special building in Brussels, which is the capital of the European Union. At Brussels, Belgium, there's a special building where they must apply and also where they must go to conduct the intricate negotiations required for them to become members of the European Union. Is there a chance that you might be able to guess what they call the building where they have to go to apply for membership in the European Union? Well, there it is. If you guessed Charlemagne building, then you are right. So the question is, do these people know what they're doing? Charlemagne on their first money, Charlemagne Prize, Charlemagne page in the Economist magazine, Charlemagne building where you go. Hey, I think they know what they're doing. I think they know that they are presiding over the rebirth of the Holy Roman Empire. Now, there's one more thing that you need to look at, because you can't have a nation unless you have a flag. Well, they have one. Here's their flag. If you look in the upper portion, you will see a blue flag with 12 gold stars superimposed on the flag. Now, immediately we say, what's that mean? Well, I found out why they have 12 stars. The flag designer, Mr. Arsene Heitz, he's now over 80 years of age, but he designed the flag, and he wrote an article explaining why he designed the flag like he did. He did this because he believed that the Holy Roman Empire should have the holy element in it. And as a devout Catholic, he believed that the woman depicted in Revelation 12, verse 1 and 2, there's a woman there giving birth to a child with 12 stars about her head. He believed that that's the Virgin Mary there in Revelation 12, and so he should take the 12 stars from her head and put them on the flag, which sends a signal to those who understand these things. Europe is under the flag of Mary. The Catholic Church is very much alive and well and a part of the Holy Roman Empire. You're looking now at a picture of the Virgin Mary with the 12 stars about her head. This was taken from a church right there in Brussels, Belgium. And all over Europe, you'll see the 12 stars wherever you look. Now, beyond that, it's even interesting that they now have 12 stars on all the license plates of all the members of the European Union, and they now also have 12 stars on the euro, the money. So it's everywhere, and it's the symbol of the, remember, Holy Roman Empire, an alliance of church and state, of politics and religion.
All right, so there you go. There's Irvin's synopsis of what he sees as the revival of the Roman Empire. A lot of the information he has there is pretty convincing that in fact the European Union is that revived Roman Empire, and all the basic foundation is in place, and really we're just waiting on the final pieces to fall in place. Next we're going to look at John Hagee, a couple of clips from his program this week where he's given a little bit of a background on the Antichrist, a lot of which you probably already heard, but some of it maybe you haven't. And then a couple of pieces he's also got talking about the days we're living in today and how demonic activity seems to be all over the place. The way people act and the things that people are doing, the music they're listening to, the shows that are on TV, and I think it's a pretty good summary of what we have access to today, both on the internet and on our other media outlets. So I thought Pastor Hagee does a really good job showing that. So check this out right quick.
We seem to be coming unraveled at the seams. Anarchy rules in the streets of Ferguson, Missouri. The Ebola plague has come to Dallas, Texas. We were told that it would never reach America, but it's here, and it's spreading. In the Middle East, ISIS is slaughtering innocent people by decapitation and crucifixion. Fox News said more than 2,000 Christians have been crucified this year in the Middle East. Think about that. As I speak, they have surrounded a city of 50,000, and the slaughter of the innocents is imminent, according to Senator John McCain. Iran is busy making the nuclear bomb that they have promised to use against Israel, and I assure you they will use it against the United States of America. The Russian bear is center stage, led by Putin, who is now called in China, according to the Wall Street Journal, Putin the Great. Can you imagine that? America continues to flounder. We have a leadership crisis. We have no solution to ISIS. We have no solutions to Ebola. We have no solutions to the flood of illegal aliens pouring across our southern border. We have no solution for Russia. We have no solution for Iran other than to cooperate with what they want to do and bow before their ridiculous demands. We're reducing our military to World War II levels while China and Russia are increasing theirs. Our stock market is swinging back and forth with hundreds of points in one day, depicting uncertainty. Could you have imagined this madness in America just 2 years ago? This chaos, by the way, is leading to a global dictator. Europe is going to call him the economic czar. The press will call him the new Caesar. The Bible calls him the Antichrist. It also refers to him as the man of sin, the beast, the lawless one, the son of perdition. We're going to cover those this morning. Who is this person? When will he come and make his appearance? What will he do as a global dictator? And how is it going to affect you? We have a lot of ground to cover. Listen closely in this Bible teaching. Read with me Revelation 13:16 and following. He, the Antichrist, causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark in their right hand or their forehead, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Herein is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. Where will you be in the near future when you hear the words over television or the radio that says, we interrupt this broadcast to announce that the Church of Jesus Christ has been raptured from the earth? They'll say something like this: our newsroom is flooded with verified, incredible stories of people known to be followers of Jesus Christ who are suddenly missing all over planet Earth. Telephone lines are jammed around the world with those left behind, searching for family members who are missing. Churches around the world are packed with people weeping hysterically. They're facing the coming Antichrist. According to Bible scholars, they have two options. One, they must take the mark of the beast in their right hand or forehead, or have their heads cut off by a religious, fanatical organization that believes the Antichrist is the Messiah. Are you connecting the dots here? Shortly thereafter, with a global economy in collapse, why is it going to be in collapse? When millions of Christians are gone who work and pay taxes, Washington's going to have to come up with a new way to pay bills. With a global economy in collapse, with the nations of the world in a state of civil war, with planet Earth in total chaos, you're going to hear, we interrupt this broadcast to announce that the community of nations has selected an economic czar to produce a one-world currency, to control every economic transaction on planet Earth. Without this mark, you cannot buy nor sell. He is joined by a globally recognized religious leaders that some are calling the false prophet of the book of Revelation. But together they're going to establish a one-world religion. The economic czar, some are calling the Antichrist, will establish a one-world government. He will divide the nations of the earth into 10 groups. And then he will appoint his men over those 10 groups of nations. In short order, they will have severe conflict. Does that sound strange in a political situation? The new world order will then take form when the Antichrist conquers 3 of those 10, and 7 nations are led by 7 men, and he leads 3. Hence, you have the Antichrist, the conqueror of 3 of the 10 leaders, creating the beast of the book of Revelation that has 10 heads and 7 crowns. All that I've just said to you is chapter and verse out of the Bible in plain speech. That's not my opinion. It's God's opinion, who says, I know the future right now. I know the end from the beginning. So let's start at ground zero. Who is the Antichrist? But the Bible is very, very clear in Revelation 13:18 that the Antichrist is a man. Now, why is that important? Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is a number of a man, and the number is 666. Revelation 19:20, then the beast and the false prophet are cast alive into the lake of fire. Now, why do I make such a point of that? Because I've heard preachers say that the Antichrist is a beast computer in Europe that already has everybody's name. That's just poppycock. That's not even close to true. To oppose Jesus Christ is to be Antichrist. You are not the Antichrist, but it is Antichrist. Jesus said himself, he that is not for me is against me. The word against means anti. Therefore, if you are not for Christ, you are against Christ. Think about that. Some of you here and those of you who are watching television around the world have rejected Christ. You have rejected his word. You never read the Bible, and you certainly don't obey it. You have heard the voice of the Holy Spirit calling you to a confession of your sin, but you refuse to do it because you think your foolish opinions are greater than those of God. You are your own God. Your conscience is tormented, your bed is a bed of hot coals, but still you reject the voice of the Lord that asks you to follow him. Therefore, you are against Christ. You are Antichrist in faith and in all reality. A practicing atheist. Satanism in America is exploding. If you don't think so, go home tonight and go down the TV Guide and look at all of the occultic movies your children can watch. America is experiencing an invasion of demons. that are very real and have very real power. The U.S. Air Force Academy has a pagan worship center, according to the newspaper, with witches conducting services for future officers in the U.S. Air Force. Can you imagine that? Our youth are taking oath of allegiance to Satan and his Messiah, the Antichrist. Rock music groups have adopted his name, and their music is nothing short of a demonic worship service. Black Sabbath, a satanic ritual, is being planned in Oklahoma City in a major auditorium where Satan will be worshiped. A shocking fact that millions of Americans are looking for joy of the coming, not of Jesus Christ, but of the Antichrist. I want you to understand, when the church is gone, the world is going to be glad we're gone. We'll be in heaven, and you're getting ready to experience 7 years of hell on earth, called the tribulation.
All right, there you go, finishing out with Pastor John Hagee. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed the show. And that's all we have time for this week. So I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you again next week.